Good evening, Zimbabwe. My name is Lumumba. These are the Lumumba Files. Call us the Destruction Boys. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the behavior of political party supporters. Here's some background. I have obviously begotten son of God, son of son in the studio. Say hi to the people.
Yo, what up, everybody? I am so happy to be here today. Our topic is lit.
Good, and I'll introduce our other guest in a minute. But let me give you some background and some context. I've been in politics for a minute now, and I can remember about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 2008 particularly. I was a young person, one of the youthies in ZANU-PF in 2008, the most violent election this country had ever experienced. ZANU-PF was a violent political party. We specialized in violence. However, you move to today, you now have a situation where the political violence that was exercised by young people in ZANU-PF then is now being exercised by young people in MDC today. Wow. You have the most brutal, the most unforgiving, the most volatile young people in politics supporting MDC on a digital footprint, and it is out of control. Tonight I want to try and understand, how do we end up with this type of behavior in political parties? We have a situation where the virility of supporters in politics is so out of control that you say one wrong thing about MDC, one wrong, even it doesn't have to be a wrong thing. You say one thing about MDC that is not pro, or one thing about ZANU-PF that is not pro, the supporters come out. We will break down the different type of supporters we now have, their behavior, and what causes it. Kudakwashe begotten son, what's up?
Man, listen, I was on Facebook Live and I did a I can classify it a pro-Chamisa rant when I thought people were taking his context, his joke about giving away his sister to the president. I thought people were taking it out of context, and I think people were being brutal about him. So I became a hero to one side. Right. The narrator said, well done, you told them it was just a joke. This morning I woke up and I went on live and I said, guys, we have to be responsible, because I saw what was happening to the young women on Twitter who were saying, but we felt offended, and you can't just placate us and say it was a joke. We need a president who can actually look at us as women, not as chattels, etc. And the vile, horrible things that these guys were saying, in the name of it was a joke, in the name of Chamisa, I think was terrible. So today, this is our show. We're talking about my supporters. We seem to have now reversed the roles. My youth is they're now afraid to criticize or even to hold to account the president of the MDC. Least we get rakashwad.
So let's have a conversation about the different types of supporters that are supporting political parties and the infallibility that these supporters come or bring to the table. You have a situation where there is a supporter who I think is a clueless supporter, but is always ready to come in and defend everything. The argument. You have a academic supporter who's going to make everything very academic. You have a confused supporter who does not know what you're talking about, does not know what you're arguing about, but is going to argue anyway.
Yes.
But the ones that frighten me is the fanatical extremist, the one who is willing to die for nothing in return at all. They're willing to die for a man they probably have never met, and they're willing to die for nothing in return. And this type of supporter does not help the candidate, they harm the candidate.
Absolutely.
That's the type of supporter who worries me the most. Which supporter worries you the most?
I'm worried about the supporters who yesterday were saying, big up, Kuda, thank you very much for saying what you said about the joke. And today are in my inbox making rape threats against my daughters in the name of President Nelson Chamisa, who is a good man. He would never endorse such a thing. And 95% of these people who have said some of these vile comments online are not his friends. I have met with him numerous of times. Some of these people are in the diaspora in South Africa, etc. So the people who scare me are the people who can say things, rape threats against Linda Masarira, rape threats against anybody who goes on a counter narrative to themselves. Death threats. There's a British professor who gave us a rundown of the Oxford meeting at Chamisa, and the British professor said she wasn't impressed. And unfortunately, the way she's being rakashkwad on social media, these are the people who are then going to be asked by people like Boris Johnson, the foreign minister, what is your thoughts on Zimbabwe? Because they don't my specialists at you. And when they look at their timeline right now, I don't think they've ever been assaulted to that extent.
What causes this? I can tell you, when I was much younger in ZANU-PF youth structures, when we began to godify Robert Mugabe, Robert Mugabe became a god because we did not have anything else to base our support on. We were going through a phase where we couldn't find an intellectual argument to defend the rise of MDC.
Right.
So when Morgan Tsvangirai, the champion of democracy, was coming into the game, he was so strong, so unexpected, caught the party off guard, that the only way we could argue with anything he said was to beat him up.
Yes.
The only way we could argue, we couldn't find an intellectual argument to sell, so instead we sold the man Robert Mugabe, and we sold him with our fists.
Right.
This is what created the problem in ZANU-PF. What do you think has created the problem in MDC?
I think it's learning from the best. My brothers and sisters who are supporters of the MDC have been brutalized over the years. We all are admitting that it's been a very difficult previous years in political history. And I think by learning some of these mechanisms and this bullying tactics, it's almost the virtualization of the ZANU youthies in the current crop of young MDC supporters. I'm not going to say all of them, but there is a very toxic, ugly bunch who are currently operating online who are very mean. Now, fairly, there's a bunch of people who are classified what they say ED, or the ED supporters, who are equally as passionate about their leader. And I've also seen them sometimes come out to Rakasha, but I'm not seeing the kind of vitriol and energy that I'm seeing with some of the MDC supporters, and I think it's because they outnumber the EDs on the online.
So you know what concerns me the most is we have a situation where political parties are selling their manifestos.
Yep.
We should be interrogating these manifestos. ZANU-PF has put out its manifesto. MDC is putting out its manifesto this weekend. MDC Coupe and the other MDC will put out theirs. At no point are we having academic arguments about the content that is going to affect our price of bread. Instead, we have personal arguments about political personality.
Well, about Ambi, bleaching skin, about whether it's a joke or not a joke, whether it's sexism, whether it's not sexism. We've totally lost the plot. We should be right now dissecting the nuances of these manifestos that affect our lives. You see, one of these parties is going to be in charge of our lives and our children's lives in literally the next 3 months. They're going to be the ruling party, one of these parties. And we're in a situation now where if we do not interrogate the ZANU-PF manifesto, and we don't interrogate the one that's coming, I mean, ZANU proxy, as you call them, they've got their manifesto coming.
Coupe will be campaigning for ZANU-PF. She's bringing out a manifesto that says vote ZANU-PF. That's the end.
That's the end goal.
They're going to open the ceremony. They'll say, hello everyone. They'll probably say it in Ndebele, Njani, vote for ZANU-PF.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're campaigning.
That is the head of the
by failing to consolidate with the others, they're absolutely campaigning for the other side.
I want to bring our other guest into the studio, and we invited her specifically because we wanted to bring in a young undecided voter and find out how these trolls affect young voters. But before we get there, I just want you to give me your insight on this. What should Nelson Chamisa be doing to either keep this going or to stop this? Because right now, I don't think this is helping him. What should he be doing to put a lead on this?
Well, I don't think the president has anything he can personally do. I think what he must do, though, is rein in his own top lieutenants. In the next Chamisa government, if it's possible, in the next 3 months, you will have people like Charlton Wende, Mofi Mkono in that building. And some of the inflammatory tweets that he puts out sometimes fuel the fire for some of the young other supporters who are anonymous and living in different countries and cannot be tried or made to account for what they say. So I think if he reins in his own lieutenants, first of all, and if he also denounces the aggression and ugliness and preaches a more reconciliatory tone and gives us more policy issues, I think it will start to mold and shape the supporters going forward. I hope that's what he does anyway.
What I'm very clear, and I've been a big supporter. I've been watching Chamisa for a while now, and I've liked the guy over time. But it has been so easy now to make my decision that I may like the guy, but my God, we give these guys keys to State House, and we have this hooliganism going on. It is so frightening. We take a break. When we come back from the break, I'll open the lines, I'll read comments on Facebook, go to Acie Lumumba on Facebook or the Lumumba Files to contribute, and I want us to have a conversation to those who are undecided voters that does the behavior of political party supporters affect your decision-making matrix when it comes to who you're going to vote for? We'll be right back. These are the Lumumba Files, and I am Lumumba with the begotten son. We are the political disruptors. These are the Lumumba Files. My name is Lumumba. I say it 3 times so that you're not ignorant enough to forget it. We're having a conversation. Does the behavior of political supporters affect voters? I have in the studio with me one of the girls who was very involved in raising her non-support of the comment that Nelson Chamisa made regarding his sister, who he was mortgaging to ZANU-PF's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Welcome to ZiFM Studio, Natalie.
Hello, Acie. How are you?
Good to have you. So tell me, you haven't voted before. You're a first-time voter. How does the behavior of ZANU-PF supporters or MDC supporters influence your decision-making process?
Okay, basically, I am not for violence. So, judging from the attitude and the behavior that these young youths are portraying, I am terrified. I fear for the future and I fear for myself. When you
want to participate, and I don't want it to look like we are bastardizing Nelson Chamisa. It's just that he is very topical at the moment. You should be glad we're talking about him, because that means he's making a lot of noise. When you participated in the conversation that was going on about what the comments he made about his sister. So let's maybe start with what was your impression of the comments, and then we'll go into how did the supporters react to the other comments that came out. How did you feel about his comment on mortgaging his own sister?
Okay, Acie, I respect Nelson Chamisa as an advocate of the law, and I would like to believe that he knows well enough not to speak in public like that. Hence the statement, whatever you say shall or will be used against you. And in this case, I would like to believe that he opened a platform for people to then come and analyze him as a person and criticize him as an aspiring president. I think the whole idea of him then baiting his sister was rather strange, pertaining to the question that he had been asked, because initially he was asked how the MDC alliance would react if it lost the vote. So to me, he then now looks like the Iron Age. Can I
give some context though, please? So we can be fair to Advocate Chamisa and what he said.
Okay.
He said in a free and fair election, he has no chance that he will lose. He's so confident that if the current president gets 5%, he is willing to marry off. I've got an 18-year-old sister who wants to get married. I found that an off-the-cuff, humorous joke. I didn't feel that he was objectifying my daughters or my wife or anything. I'm trying to be fair about this man. He's not a hateful man.
Okay, Kuda. In my context, I now then look at him as the true reflection of the Iron Age Lobengula, who sold centuries of freedom for sugar. Because basically, I would like to believe that each and every person has a right of choice. Right. And in this case, okay, what then does that say about Nelson Chamisa when it comes to gender mainstreaming? Let's look at the current government. There is lesser women in the government. Let's look at the delegation that went to Doha. There's no woman. Delegation of MDC that's in UK. There's no woman. Then let's look at people like Fadzai Mahere, who's always bashed time and time again by people because she's a woman who's trying to stand up. I am not all about supporting women in everything, in good or in bad, but basically I believe in gender equity.
No, of course.
Okay, hold on. So do you reckon that Nelson Chamisa's statements have an effect on gender mainstreaming or have an effect on barriers of entry for women to access politics?
Okay, I would like to believe if he's willing to trade his sister, basically that's his blood.
No,
In this case, she wasn't asked. He promised he was going to trade his sister in exchange for power. Okay, let me give an example.
He doesn't have a sister, first of all.
Okay, but that doesn't matter.
Okay,
hypothetically, right? Let's look at it like this. I am speaking as a mother. I'm a mother. So let's look at it like this. King Mswati then comes and approaches Nelson Chamisa when he becomes president, and says, look here, my guy, I have a multi-billionaire deal. Yes, I have a multi-billion deal. Yeah, but I want 5 virgins in exchange. are our daughters or our young sisters safe, considering that this guy even considered this in the first place?
This is a hypothetical.
Is it now butter trade season?
God.
We are past Iron Age.
Now
Guys.
that's okay, and this is exactly where the conversation begins to take its shape. Where so she has shared her view, whether her view is right or wrong, supported or not. The question then becomes, how do we react to that view? So I think if King Mswati wanted to give us $1 billion and we had to give up five of our sisters, we should give him 10. I think if Nelson Chamisa's sister wants to get married, if Nelson Chamisa wants to marry his sister to the president of the country, akangwara. Because if my sister, I will give my sister 2 to marry Emerson Mnangagwa if Emerson Mnangagwa is the president. I think the very concept of marriage by design, by creation, even if you look at it biblically, was to unite families. So if the concept is let's unite families by giving up my sister, there's nothing wrong with it.
No,
but herein comes the conversation.
Okay.
The conversation is not about was what he did right or was what he did wrong. The conversation is about how do we tolerate our different opinions. And now you are going to get attacked, Natalie, right after what you've just said.
Well, she's being attacked now on the Facebook Live. She's being called
So-
dumb. She's being told stupid ASS.
Oh
She's
my
being
God.
called shut the F up.
Oh my God.
These are various people who normally are very smart people, but are attacking you right now for your different opinion. I think this is where I jump in and I say, look, despite the fact that I felt that he wasn't being serious, I didn't feel the hyperbole was actually, I don't think he meant to his heart. As a leader of the biggest party, as a potential statesman, as an international statesman, I believe he should have apologized for the issue so we can move on from it, so we can understand the nuances and the issues that some women like yourself are facing. And I'm sorry that you're facing some of this abuse, but this is what is happening in our country. We are very polarized, and if people think that you're against their candidate, they are going to attack you in this way. Do you understand?
So I then wonder, where is the right to vote then?
Do you like Nelson
Do we
Chamisa?
actually have rights?
Hold
I've
on.
always been for the notion chinja maitiro because I want change.
Right.
I am advocating for change. But after these chauvinistic remarks, I actually wonder where we stand as a country. Like,
So
where
will
is
you
our
vote?
future
So
going?
will you vote for the other side, or will you not vote? Is my question.
My vote is my privacy, unfortunately. I can't tell you.
Is it the candidate or is it the supporters? Again, I ask because I'm trying to ascertain. Does the behavior of the supporters affect yours or does it not?
Well, considering the way these people are now bashing everyone, it then makes you wonder what type of a government is going to come as soon as he gets into power, considering the people that are surrounding him are now becoming hooligans. It's
Right.
now so scary to say anything on social media, but it's actually supposed to be a platform where we air our views. I believe we live in a free and a fair country whereby there is no censorship of prayers and whereby we are allowed to speak out. I mean,
Right.
just last week we were bashing the VP. So why is it so hard for them to accept the fact that he created a platform where we can come and criticize him?
Kuda,
He knows very well as a legal counsel
you
not
have
to
been-
say anything like that.
Got it. So Kuda, you've been on public record criticizing President Emerson Mnangagwa's cabinet, President Emerson Mnangagwa's decision, and his governance style.
Yes.
Which would then make the natural assumption that should you have to make an syllogism on your vote, you're taking it somewhere else that is not to Emerson Mnangagwa.
Absolutely.
But here you are.
Yep.
You're not going to vote for ZANU-PF because you've been talking about everything you don't like about them, and then you go to the other side.
Yep.
You are in the process of running a campaign which has been involved in having conversations with the alliance.
Yep.
And you get there, and how has been your treatment on the other side? Has ZANU-PF treated you better,
Okay, look.
or has MDC treated you better?
I need to be 100% honest here in what I'm going to say. Despite my strong anti-ZANU sentiments sometimes in my presentations, I have never had my wife threatened to be raped. I've never been threatened with death. And I've never really, during the Mugabe era, there's a lot of things that happened to us. We got taken away, we got beaten, we got a lot of things happen. But in the recent days, that's not been happening.
Right.
On the online vitriol that I'm facing right now, just for pointing out that we need leadership that can also admit that sometimes these comments can cause polarization and he must say sorry. Just by saying that, I have received more vitriol today than I have in my lifetime. So
how much of that is on the candidate versus on the behavior just of the public.
Well, because I know the candidate, I know it's not the candidate himself. I don't think that's his personal behavior. But I think he's inherited a lot of legacy issues. A lot of hurt people who are now out there to hurt people. People are desperate for change. People are desperate for a new dispensation, an actual new dispensation. So right now it seems like anybody, especially like your video this morning, if you just sound a little bit like you're trying to say this guy is not a good guy, they attack you. And yet they need to understand that sometimes giving sound advice, sometimes giving just, a different opinion does not necessarily mean that you're now discrediting their chosen candidate.
Here's what I've learned in politics over time. I have learned that the greatest politicians were great not because of how many bridges they burnt. The greatest politicians were made because of how many bridges they built.
Yes.
The greatest countries did not become great because of how many walls or how many stones they threw at each other. The greatest countries became great because with every brick, they used it to build their country.
Yes.
With every opportunity they could find, they took that opportunity to work together for a better country.
Yes.
So we will not find a better country as a result of throwing stones at each other. It's almost as if every Zimbabwean has been given a brick and we have a choice. With this brick we have been given, do we use it to throw it at each other, or do we use this brick to build a country that is sufficient or that is conducive to all who live in it? This is what I think politics needs to start focusing on. I almost wish I could take Noah Manyika and make Noah Manyika lead MDC Alliance, because Noah Manyika would have put a very, very solid show in his presentation as he went out there. But that is neither my place nor my position to take. I want you guys to wrap up and tell me, what do you wish to see from politicians and their supporters? Natalie and Kuda, you can do the same, and we'll wrap up. We've got 3 minutes.
I would like to see peace amongst these political parties, amongst everything. Because the problem that we're facing right now is that both political parties have hooligans. We have ZANU-PF youth bashing everyone with the notion ED is my vote. Then we have the Nelson Chamisa supporters bashing everyone at every chance that they get. If only we could all relax and look forward and focus on the fact that what we need is change.
Got it. BK.
Ladies and gentlemen, these politicians will still be politicians after the election. We will still have to have Ukama Wedu after this election. We'll still have to be friends. We'll still have to be neighbors. We'll still have to be together. So let's stop attacking each other vehemently. Our homework today is to go online and try and spread love instead of war. That's what I would like to see in the next couple of weeks.
The danger of any political election, the danger of any election of any kind, is it always brings in division. It forces us to pick a side between left and right. In this election, we're being forced to pick between many sides. I wish, Zimbabweans, we would focus our minds, focus our energies on everybody contributing to what can we do to make this country better. It's the only question we need to answer. What can we do to make this country better? My name is Lumumba.
My name is Kudakwashim Sasiwa, aka the Begotten Son, President of the Tea Party.
Son of God, son of son. And we had in the guest with us, Madam Natalie. What's your social media handle so people can check you out?
Natalie Merle Diamonds.
Natalie Mel Diamonds. Thank you to ZiFM.
Be kind to her,
Thank
please.
you to Big Brother Teach for running the decks for us. It's been the Lumumba Files. We are the political destruction boys.
Disruption boys.
Good evening, Zimbabwe.